morning. I am up on our rooftop. Where else would I be? It is our last morning, so I just wanted to come up and soak up the view one last time in the morning. Rachel is actually still sleeping downstairs. Kind of came up just after sunrise, so I'm just looking around and just enjoying being in New York City for one more morning. So we are getting a little bit of the sunrise glow this morning. It is quite cloudy and stuff, so yeah, I think this is probably the best we're gonna get, but I'll take it. It looks beautiful. Still nice and quiet in the streets down below. We haven't got tons of honking. I'm not sure if I've mentioned, I mean, you've probably heard it in the vlogs. I always, hear people talk about the honking in New York City, cabs and stuff and whatever, but I didn't realize how much honking there actually is. Like, it's so funny. We would leave our window open in our room and literally it's constant. People just honk for the crack, I think. Like, they just honk at each other all the time, and then there'll be honking battles between people. You expect a bit of that in a city, but I think New York's just on a different level. There's no rhyme nor reason. There's just honking all the time. I don't know that I would be particularly excited about driving in the city. Definitely liked being a pedestrian instead. Yeah, it seems like a lot of people just get a little bit stressed and a little bit honky when they're driving around New York City. So while I'm here on the rooftop, what better place for me to give you some tips if you're planning to travel to New York City. I think that'll be a really good thing to include in the last vlog of the trip. I'm always looking for tips when I want to travel somewhere, and I think we've picked up a few while we've been here. So my first big tip is to walk as much as you can, because obviously you're gonna see so much more of the city if you're walking around than taking taxis or taking the subway. A lot of things are within walking distance from where we're staying here in Chelsea. Maybe where you're staying is not going to be as convenient, but I would definitely check before you book your hotel as well, in terms of location, if it's going to be somewhere that you can walk from. Like, if you're staying in Times Square, you're not staying too far from where we are as well. So a lot of things like that are in walking distance from us here will be in walking distance from Times Square as well. But yeah, if possible, plan to have a walking trip. We've done an average of almost 20,000 steps a day. I know that's not going to be possible for everybody, but if it's something that you're capable of, I would definitely recommend it, because we saw so much just being on the streets and walking around that we would have missed had we just been hopping in and out of the subway or in and out of taxis. And what you can do if you are staying less central or in a place that's not within walking distance from a lot of the things you want to do, is just plan to get a subway once in the morning to somewhere that is more central, and then plan what you're doing that day in the same area. So for example, if you're looking to do the Brooklyn Bridge, you can get a subway across to Brooklyn. You can do Dumbo, that whole area there is amazing. They've got the Time Out Market, and then you can walk across the Brooklyn Bridge back towards Manhattan, and then you're in the perfect location to also head over and do the World Trade Center. You can do Chinatown as well. So yeah, you can get loads in within the same area, and then you've done a lot of walking and only that sort of one subway ride over, and then a subway ride back if you need to get back to where you're staying. Similarly, if you're looking to do the Edge that we did, head over to that area, do the Edge, also go see the Vessel, and then hop on the High Line. You can do the walk from the High Line all the way over to Chelsea Market, which we did as well, or you could do vice versa. You could start in Chelsea Market, walk the High Line over to Hudson Yards, do the Edge, and do the Vessel. So yeah, that's my number one tip. Try and walk as much as possible. Number two, if you are getting the subway, you can now use a contactless card or device. So you can use your phone, you can use just a debit card. This is quite a new system, so they've only just introduced this. It's working really well for us. We've been able to use Apple Pay the whole time, and it saves us having to top up a Metro card, because you're not sure how much you're going to use the subway on your trip. We certainly weren't, so we did actually still have to get a Metro card at the start of our trip, and that was for our AirTrain from the airport, but I imagine eventually they will transition a lot of those transports also onto the contactless system. As well as that, be aware that if you use the subway 12 times within a week, and a week is Monday to Sunday, any trips after your 12th trip, so your 13th, 14th, 15th, will be free. So basically there's a cap. It's very similar to what we do back in London, so you will only ever pay for 12 trips within a week. So that's a good way to budget in terms of how much you're going to need to put aside for using the subway. We actually are probably only just approaching that cap right now. I don't think we're going to go over it, so it didn't really apply to us in the end, but it's still really good to know. Number 3 is to have cash. So back in London, I never have cash, ever. I never take money out of a cash machine. I just always use my phone or card. But there are definitely more times in New York where you'll want to have cash. That will be for like tipping in some situations where, you know, you're not just adding it onto your bill. Or also if you go to places like Chinatown, for example, the place that we went to did not take card. You may find some workarounds. So actually that morning that we went to Chinatown, we couldn't get money out of the cash machine because we both brought our metal cards, which are a little bit thicker than the normal credit cards, and we couldn't use it in any of the ATMs because they were like different to the ones that we have back home. So we weren't able to get cash out that morning. But in that place that we went to first thing in the morning, they actually accepted Uber Eats. So we were able to go onto the Uber Eats app and order for like pick up in the store. It was a little bit more expensive, but really not by much. So if you do get stuck, that's a very good option. But I would definitely say just like get some cash out at the start of your trip and just have it on you. I wouldn't recommend getting out too much. It's just not a good idea in my opinion to walk around with lots of cash on you, but like just have, I don't know, like $20-30 on you, with some smaller denominations then as well that you can use for tips. Tip number 4 would be to research food places before you come here. I think in New York, like it's very easy to end up just going to some tourist traps. Like we went to the TikTok diner while we were here. It was so average and so overpriced. Like average and overpriced is just what you want to avoid. There are so many amazing places in New York where you can eat amazing food for a good price. There are some that are obviously on the pricier end, but if you're going to be paying that price anyway, you want to eat better food. And then if you are looking for some really good food at a lower price, there's also so many options. So 100% recommend do your research, like figure out where you're going to be on each day of your trip, or even just in the morning, figure out where you're going to be, have a list of food places that you want to go to. That's what we did, and then we kind of like slotted the food places in depending on where we were going to be that day, and we ended up eating some amazing food while we were here. We also stumbled across places that, you know, we hadn't found in advance, like the Skirt Steak place that is literally right beside our hotel. So using like Google reviews was really helpful. You know, just check the place on your phone and check the Google reviews. You can pull up menus and stuff then as well. And tip number 5 is just to keep your wits about you the whole time. Make sure you're always alert. Like we have been pedestrians for most of the time, like walking around the streets and stuff of New York. A lot has changed since the last time we've been here. Now it has been 10 years, but in terms of what we're seeing, like the amount of times you get approached or hassled on the streets is so much more. That's obviously for several reasons. You know, COVID's going to be a big factor. Certainly we've noticed that there's a much bigger problem with drugs in the streets. That's just been very more prevalent this trip versus, you know, 10 years ago. It's a long time. So yeah, and that's probably just not a New York thing. That's a worldwide / I know in particular the US has struggled with that. So just really do make sure you keep your wits about you when you're walking around the streets. What we would do is have our purses underneath our jackets and zip our jackets up so our purses aren't on show. So if somebody's walking behind us, they don't see, like, you know, the strap of our bags or purses. So yeah, like that was just one thing we did to keep safe. We would rarely take our phone out in the streets. You know, we would usually pull into a shop, or if we are somewhere, we would check our phone before we leave that place, like, so we're not kind of just walking around the streets like looking lost, looking like tourists. When we were ever somewhere that we did feel a little bit sketchy, like, you know, we would sometimes just turn down a street. It would look okay, you get halfway down the street and then you realize, oh, this is not so great, and you know, there might be some people on the street that you're like a little bit worried about. We would always just walk with purpose, like walk like you know where you are. Never look lost in those kind of situations, even if it means you walk a block in the opposite direction. Like, just, yeah, the last thing you want to do is look like you don't know where you are, you're confused, because people take that as an opportunity to approach you. And some people will approach you in a very friendly manner, like looking for fist bumps and like complimenting something. Like compliments, I find, was a way that a lot of people would try and approach you. So yeah, just always be aware of your surroundings. You know, just don't do the obvious things to put yourself in a position where you might have things stolen from you. And yeah, then in general, just try not to speak to random people in the streets, because even some people that will seem quite friendly are generally not. I think most New Yorkers slash tourists do not approach people in the streets. So if you are being approached, try to get out of that situation. We would normally just like be like, oh, we're going for a train, and just power walk past to try and get out of those situations. One thing I actually found difficult was filming with my camera, because I did find having my camera out was like an opportunity for someone to approach me, particularly because I've got a little mic on the camera and I use the like wind muffler, and that seemed to be something that lots of people used to approach us. They'd be like, oh, what's that thing? And then like, and in some cases, you know, we were in restaurants, some people would ask, and obviously it was just a genuine curiosity, but in the streets, like, it was used a lot to try and start a conversation with us. And so again, we would just be like, oh, we're going for a train, sorry, yeah, haha, like it's a wind muff, whatever, and we just keep walking. So yeah, just trying not to be like super rude and, you know, start a confrontation, but also just get ourselves out of that situation. So with it being our last morning, we thought we had to come to Times Square. It is about like 9 o'clock now, so a lot of places are not open yet, but it's actually nice because it's really quiet, and because it's a dull day you can really see all of the lights, which is pretty cool. We've been getting teased by this sign up here, see right here, it's advertising Raising Cane's, which is one of our favorite places in the US, but it says coming soon. They don't have it here yet in New York, so maybe next time we come we'll get to go to Raising Cane's. But if you are coming and Raising Cane's is opened, highly recommend. It is a fast food place, but the chicken they do is amazing. The gravy they do, oh, it's so good. We had it for the first time in California, and they really weren't like around nationwide, but we did also have it in Hawaii, so yeah, definitely recommend. It is just starting to rain so we might have to seek some shelter in a little bit. I'm sure I've read before about why the steam comes from the ground, but I totally forget. I know in New York they have don't they have those pipes like that go through buildings and stuff that will actually heat the building up like with steam. But yeah, I can't remember why the steam just like comes out of everywhere. If I can find that out, I'll have a little fun fact on the screen so you guys will know. We've come into CVS to get some plain snacks. They've got these little boxes, 3 for $3, so I think that's what we're going to go for. I'm thinking Milk Duds, Sour Patch Kids, and Skittles. The Skittles here taste different because they have some additives I think that we don't allow in the UK. We finished up our last day with family. They drove us around New York. They were telling us lots of stories, which was really cool, even showing us some celebrity houses along the way. And then we had some amazing pizza in Queens on the way to the airport. I didn't mention it in the vlog series, but I was actually working for a good few days while we were in New York, and then we did spend a good bit of time with families. Obviously, I didn't vlog any of that. As I mentioned during my tips section as well, I didn't feel super comfortable when we were out and about in the streets vlogging too much, and actually upon reflection we were a bit nervous about a lot of our subway travel, particularly coming from the airport. I would not recommend it right now, getting the air train and getting the subway. We really did not feel great during that experience, just having our cases with us. I think the subway was okay for us when we were traveling around Manhattan quite centrally, and I also was traveling with my sister. I don't know that I would recommend doing much subway travel on your own, or specifically out of the very central areas. All that being said, I had a wonderful time in New York City and I wouldn't hesitate to go back. Hope you have enjoyed the series. Please give the vlog a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, and let me know in the comments down below if you have any questions or if you just have any comments on the series in general. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.